How a short film makes use of conventions found in other real-life media products. For example, our film conforms to obvious conventions. The film, at only 5 minutes long, is short, is led by narrative, we use only 2 actors, and very few filming locations.
Short films often have little, no to exposition due to their short runtime. Our film partly conforms to this convention as there are some aspects of the scene we didn't explain, like the location or the characters. However, some of the ideas featured in our film, like the absence of colour for certain characters, had to be explained because otherwise the audience wouldn't understand the plot of the film.
Another convention we developed was that short films are experimental. The overall style, tone and form of the short film may not be considered unusual, but the central ideas of the film regarding colour is instead unrealistic and arguably experimental.
A short film can often take place in a short space of time, sometimes even in real life, or alternatively, for those where a longer period is shown, ellipses are used to compress time. Our film, while not in real time, does take place in a short period of time, and as a result conforms to this convention. However, this also meant we did not use ellipses.
Sound drives short films, and this is one of the major conventions of the genre. In our work, we also relied heavily on a mixture of sound sources. We needed a voiceover to introduce information and make sure the audience understood what was happening in the film at points when it may have been unclear. We also used dialogue in a similar way to introduce the characters, and towards the end of our film, we used soundtracks to display the mood of the character and to also create a comedic effect. In order to maintain a recognisable marketing package, we each implemented a theme throughout our main products and ancillary tasks. In order to produce a theme fitting to our target audience, we had to refer back to our previous research. Short films as a medium are niche, and therefore the audience are largely focused around the media industry, i.e. students, industry professionals and hobbyists. However, since the industry is male-dominated, we came to the assumption that the target audience would be of the male gender rather than the female.
With this in mind, I started the production of my first ancillary task, the magazine review. I based the style around Empire magazines, and they too have a similar target audience to short films themselves. This made the written script part of the review much easier as I knew in my head exactly who it was aimed for. As well as this, the format and layout of the magazine allowed me to keep my theme of the red against black and white linked to the key narrative object, the red ball, of our short. By using this, along with the borders, with the same colour scheme, it made the marketing package more appropriate and professional. With the construction of my poster, I wanted to keep the colour scheme prominent, as the film focuses around the idea of colour versus grey. I wanted all the attention to draw on the ball. I took the inspiration from the Phantom of the Opera from 2004 and Me Before You in 2016, as their posters have the key items relating to the narrative most prominent and distinguishable. Combined with the same colour scheme as my other tasks too, it contributed to the overall quality in the marketing package.
With the target audience in mind, I continued to construct my poster and decided to use conventionally more masculine bold colours for the main text, like red, but I also used orange so as to not alienate the secondary target audience. Since our film centres around the idea of colour, more specifically colour in contrast to black and white, I aim to pick out singular images or objects to colour, or to have coloured, so it would stand out in a similar way. Furthermore, in order to maintain a recognisable marketing package, I used the same font throughout my poster, magazine, review and blog. For my magazine review, I recreated the style of the magazine Little White Lies. I decided to choose this style because of its white borders feature, which was similar to the border feature I used in my poster and blog theme. In addition to this, the magazine has a similar target audience to that of our short film, since both products are niche and both target audience are students with an interest in film.
Firstly, we pitched our initial ideas to the group in order to get immediate feedback as to whether our ideas were in fact interesting and could be made into a short. Since most of our ideas were not fully formed, it was a rough plan. The feedback we received was more concerning the structure. It was suggested that we give our film a more conventionally clear structure, as the group thought our ideas were slightly unclear. This lack of clarity was most likely a result of our idea to include a flashback in the middle of our film. Consequently, we were told that removing this flashback would make the plot easier to understand and would also help with the structure. In the original idea, our protagonist's girlfriend dies, and this is the cause of him not seeing colour anymore. This was said to be a bit drastic and overdramatic, as well as difficult to convey in such a short space of time, so it was suggested that we remove it.
The next major point was the pitch of our fully formed ideas. At this stage, we got more feedback from the group. This time, it was about more than just structure and plot points. Now, we have more in-depth descriptions of characters and locations. plus ideas as to what we would do in terms of editing, lighting and sound. One of the major pieces of feedback we received concerning the main idea of the genre of our film. Some people believed that the soulmate was a strong term and instead we should use the word love. As a result, it may be unbelievable if we did use the word soulmate when the protagonist and his girlfriend break up. The other more significant piece of feedback we received was that we needed more action between the climax and resolution of the story, as the group thought it was rushed.
For our film's final screening, we made questionnaires for the audience in order to again receive more specific feedback as to what we could improve. The results from the questionnaire pointed us to what the audience liked least and what we should be prioritising and fixing most urgently. The major issues the audience had were sound related. Some people didn't like the soundtrack, while some couldn't hear the dialogue and so couldn't understand the story. Either way, the sound problems resulted in the audience not enjoying our film. For our research and planning, throughout the production of our film and ancillary tasks, we had to use various websites, Vimeo, YouTube, Pixlr, Slideshare, etc., to look into and record any information we found relevant for our own production. We also used the site WordPress for our blog to present our journey throughout. This was an advancement to our AS year, where we were used to Tumblr, as it allowed us to display our research in various formats.
The kit itself was more advanced than we had used previously. We had practiced roughly with the 700D SLR camera to get to grips with it. Maddie had used it in extracurricular activities since the prelim, so she had had a better understanding on the day, which helped when we also had to take the original photographs for ancillary tasks. However, during the final shooting of our film, we were also equipped with the Marantz sound kit and tripod. The Marantz allowed us to record our audio separately and to a higher quality, and the tripod, which we had used in previous projects, provided us with a stable support for the camera. The more advanced kit provided an overall.
The soundtrack to our project was created using GarageBand, a piece of software we were very familiar with. Not only had we used it in our AS year, but Shannon studies music as a BTEC. Our familiarity with the program made the process vividly quicker, and we managed to balance out the time lost during the production of our posters.
For the production of the poster, we used Adobe Photoshop. This was mostly new to us, but Maddie, who had used it to a basic level previously on other projects. As a class, we had a tutorial lecture about the basic tools on the software, but we also did follow-up research, including tutorials, to progress our understanding.
To create our magazine reviews, we used Adobe InDesign. We had never previously used this software and therefore had to learn the basic functions first before creating the reviews and the layout. We each found it much easier to understand than Photoshop and consequently felt more confident with it when producing the ancillary tasks. We had also used the tutorials for beginners found on YouTube as a basis of knowledge of the software for the main tools such as text, frame and shape. Again, thanks to the simple design of the InDesign, we were able to pick up on things easily and produce our reviews as quickly as possible.